Good evening, everyone. We're bringing to order the Santa Cruz County Board of Education meeting. Welcome, everybody that is present, and if there are any online, welcome. At this time, we're going to do our roll call.
Trustee Acosta? Trustee Kyle?
Here.
Vice President Larson?
Here.
Trustee Roth?
Here.
Trustee Sanchez? Trustee Van Allen?
Here.
President Williams? President Williams?
Here.
Student Trustee Guillen Martinez?
Here.
Student Trustee Amor? He is here. You have quorum, President Williams.
Thank you. Is there anybody that will be participating remotely under SB 707?
There have been no requests for remote attendance.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're moving on to item 2. We will now be adding a land acknowledgement to the beginning of our meeting. The land on which we gather is the unceded territory of the Awaswas speaking Yupi tribe. The Amamutsan tribal band comprised of the descendants of indigenous people taken to Mission Santa Cruz and San Juan Bautista during the Spanish colonization of the Central Coast is today working hard to restore traditional stewardship practices on these lands and heal from historical traumas. We will now go into item 3, Pledge of Allegiance. For those who can and are able, please stand as Dr. Spa leads us.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. We'll go into the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes in sequence or adds or suggestions? Great. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Voice vote? No? All those in favor? Abstain? No? All right. So moved. On to public comment. This is the opportunity for the public to address the board regarding items not on the agenda. We will give you 3 minutes. Are there any persons present or online?
Seeing none, President Williams.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go on to the student trustee reports. Do we have a volunteer to go first?
Mine's gonna be a little bit short because we did have winter break. I was at my house. Yeah, but for my report this month, I was mostly at my house and working, and we took the kids from the youth center to a lot of different field trips. So that counts as community work. I work, but I did the community service, and we took them to get free haircuts at a barbershop in Watsonville, for food and other activities. And then I had my event at Empower Watsonville recently. I feel like that was very fun. A lot of people liked it, and we got a lot of engagement from new youth that we've never seen at the youth center. A lot of people came for that, and also Empower Watsonville. We got a lot of engagement from the city, and they want us to do another event. So now I have to plan another event. Also, I have more upcoming things for my group at Watsonville High, the student advocacy group. We keep having meetings basically every week, or sometimes 2 times a week, depending on when we schedule the meetings with the principal. And we talk about different problems or good things that happen at school. We just talk about school in general. And we're gonna be doing a flower wall. So we're gonna have a shelf, and we're gonna have a bunch of flowers. People students could get flowers or a flower if they wanted to. So that would be like promoting mental health. Um, and if you really wanted to, you could get a flower, give it to someone else, make someone's day with a flower. We have a teacher. I didn't know they grow flowers, so a teacher grows flowers, so we're getting the flowers from them through a grant that the school has for money, I guess. I don't know how they explained it to me, but they have money, so we're gonna use it. And we got more compliment boxes, and the compliment boxes have been going really good. Some classes are not that going, they're like one or two, but I've seen other boxes where the box is like this big and it's full. So some classes they're doing really good, others not. I don't know why, but maybe we have to do more like advertisement and more telling people what it is and what you can receive, what the pros are for doing it. Yeah.
Thank you.
For my student trustee report, I also was on winter break, so I didn't have the opportunity to do as much as I wished to do. But recently I was like a few minutes earlier, I was able to meet with Jen and talk about our plans for the dress code and going forth with that and just consulting with everyone. And also, I made a sort of little list of intentions, or I think that's what they're called, because it's the new year, you know. So for as a student trustee, my intentions for the new year is I want to visit all of the all ed sites and like talk to the students. I want to continue to engage in community, like the community in general, with like a focus on mental health and the LGBTQIA plus community. For that, I am for the focusing on LGBTQIA plus community on the February, I think it's 6th. I'm doing a speaking of like I think it's why you should care about uh, gender affirming care. So I'm gonna be one of the panel members. I'm super excited for that. It was pushed back to February, but I'm excited that it's finally going on now. And then I also am really looking excited to tour the Crisis Mental Health Center because I am quite interested to see it and maybe talk to the people that are like in charge of that and maybe make some suggestions because I feel like there's a lot more mental health resources that could be available. The closest like places to get mental health resources really are like at least an hour away, like over the hill, all the hills, like very far away. So it's not really feasible when I know so many of the people in the community are struggling and might need like higher levels of care, and it's just such a long way away to get the care and that they need, you know. And then also another goal is to finish the website, which honestly I did kind of forget about, but I need to finish my website because I'm super excited about that. And yeah. And then I guess just coming up, uh school school started like on the 6th, I think. And then for Brio, it starts on the 26th. So I'm super excited for that. I'm doing the EMT Academy course thing this year, which is super excited about.
Well, even though you said you guys didn't do very much during break, it sounds like you were very busy. Welcome to the spring semester, and we wish you guys all the best. Yes.
That I did have like brunch with two different community members. The UPSA
Mhm.
CEO and another community member. I forgot their name, but I had brunch with other people. So
Busy. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on to item 7.1 appointments. Do we have any appointment changes to committees? Any requests for changes or moving to? Okay. So did that's right, you weren't here when we had assignments. So we do have a few committees that are open. If you would like to join, we have the Agenda Committee, a Budget Committee, Policy Committee, Community Outreach Legislative Committee, and then we do have some ad hocs, but those come on when circumstances arise. Is there any particular interest that you have in any one of those? In the Policy Committee? Okay, great. All right, can we add? the policy? Wonderful. Well, welcome to the Policy Committee. All right. All right, consent agenda. Any questions, clarifications, comments? Yes.
One question, I don't need to pull them unless other board members wish to, but for 8.3 through 8.6, which are the ones that are submitted without the information from the state, when we do finally get the information from the state, will those have to come back on the agenda? Or will the updated reports just be sent as informational items?
Generally, we don't bring them back, but we'd be happy to if you'd like to see them.
I'd be fine just with an informational item to the
Okay.
board, unless other board members want it back on the agenda.
Is there? Okay, yeah, so we could bring it back. So you're saying bring it back with that once it's complete? Once we have all the information, is that what you're saying?
I was saying it didn't really have to be agendized. It could just be sent to the board and then maybe listed under
As in
correspondence.
Got it.
That'd be fine with me.
Happy to do that.
For that, would it be like a report sort of thing, like we learn about it, or would it just be in the footnotes?
So it would be correspondence, so you'd get an email with a report and then you'd be able to ask questions and additional information.
Thank you.
And let me clarify, I'm assuming once we get the information from the state, they have to be updated anyway, so we're not creating additional work.
That's correct,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, we have to, what we post on our websites has to be.
Okay, so just when that's happened, if you could even send us a link to the website, that'd be.
Is this a structural problem though with the data being late?
No, I believe it's a timeline issue. So we don't get the information ahead of time, but we have a timeline to get it.
Is that gonna happen
You-
every year though?
Yes, I
Oh,
believe so,
really?
yeah.
So is that something that needs, we can adjust for? So that we're not bringing it back maybe next year?
Deadline is.
The
probably-
deadline- deadline.
Yeah, your deadline to
Yes.
approve
Approve
it
it.
is,
Sooner than getting all of the data?
Ed Cook.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's beyond our control.
For our student trustees, welcome to government bureaucracy.
All right,
I'll
so
move the
can,
consent agenda,
all right,
assuming no other.
second? All in favor? Oppose? Abstain? All right. Moved, passed. All right, we are going to correspondence. Is there anything additional any additional correspondence that wasn't included in the packet?
No additional correspondence, President Williams.
Excellent. All right, so we're on to reports, discussions, and presentations. We're going to first start with 11-1 with Dr. Sabah on presentation of COE's human trafficking awareness efforts.
yes, thank you so much, President Williams and members of the board. It is a pleasure for me to share some information about our efforts to address, bring awareness to, and prevent human trafficking here locally in our schools. You're going to be you'll be looking at a resolution in a future items in our action for a resolution in support of Human Trafficking Awareness Month. So we felt like this was an opportunity for us to share some information about human trafficking. Also, talk to you a little bit about the report that came out from the grand jury, and to share with you what we've been doing, what we have strengthened, and what we will continue to do to bring, again, awareness, prevention, and to address human trafficking. So the definition for human trafficking is the use of force, fraud, or coercion to compel a person into performing labor, services, or commercial sex acts for the purpose of exploitation. This is a definition that is now consistently utilized in the United States and by the United Nations and other international organizations. And so it's a pretty broad definition. And so many times because of the media or because of news articles, we think of only some of those, like the sexual component is many times highlighted in a lot of, and when we think of human trafficking. But it is important to note that that it is a broader definition that is as a result of force, fraud, or coercion. Now, when we look at human trafficking, we are identified as a hotspot for human trafficking here in the Bay Area from Santa Cruz through San Francisco. Now, the research proves that human trafficking is chronically underreported by the nature of it being something that many times victims or survivors are unable to report and get help when they need it. California, there's evidence that California is one of those hotspots. That information comes from the National Human Trafficking Hotline, as well as where California gets one of the highest percentages for calls for help from that hotline. In addition, when it comes to the California Department of Justice and looking at arrest records and enforcement activity by law enforcement, they've seen that the Bay Area is a hotspot where there are higher numbers of human trafficking incidents. I believe urban areas are known to generally be more susceptible to have this in the community than areas that are not as dense. So again, those documented cases and law enforcement activities are and also anecdotal information from survivors, including survivors that have come here. I've been to several presentations done by Rising Worldwide and also by the district attorney, where survivors have talked about how when they were being trafficked, that Santa Cruz was one of the stops for many survivors. So in last year, the grand jury interviewed us to look into how we were, the kinds of things that we were doing to bring awareness about human trafficking, and also to identify and make recommendations based on what they found. The report was made available in June of 2025. And what they found was that trafficking occurs locally, but is often unrecognized and underreported as it is nationally and across the state. That they felt that the county response, not only the County Office of Education, but the county's response needs to have stronger coordination and consistent prevention efforts. And they recommended systems for identification, reporting, and support should be strengthened, especially across organizations, where educational organizations, law enforcement organizations, mental health organizations to work better in developing stronger, consistent systems. They specifically identified in education that there was inconsistent staff training and awareness in the school community. And despite that there were required trainings and that there were available resources, they felt like the implementation was. And we welcomed their findings. And that was our response to their report. We said, we appreciated the fact that they were bringing this to our attention. We felt like we had been doing some good work in this area, and we recognize that their recommendations will help us be stronger and have a more effective system when it comes to addressing human trafficking among our students, among our community, and across Santa Cruz County. So speaking of those, one of the things that we put in place is to mandate annual human traffic related training for all COE staff as part of our required compliance training. This is above and beyond the requirements of the law, but we felt like because there was some inconsistency
and we wanted to make sure that all staff were receiving this training. And so this became a new requirement. In the same way that we require mandated reporter training, we now mandate human trafficking training. We monitor it. Our Human Resources Department works with all the departments to ensure that all our staff are participating in training. We expanded our partnership with Rising Worldwide, which was a recommendation of the report as well. We had already had the partnership with them, but we have expanded their support for us. They provide survivor-informed classroom presentations, including at Juvenile Hall and in other classrooms. Because it's so impactful when you hear from the voices of survivors. And we feel like that we're looking at expanding that kind of relationship and that partnership with Rising Worldwide and other organizations. Another component is that the Education Code does require that we incorporate human trafficking awareness as part of our instructional program, and kind of and that all students are able to participate. One of the areas they identified specifically in the report was that our independent studies students were not receiving training. And so we are ensuring that we're integrating that training for all of our teachers, classroom teachers, as well as our independent study teachers. We also maintain and share a human trafficking resource guide for families, educators, and the broader community, and also are sharing information about local supports and hotlines. Again, we feel like we had some systems in place. Thanks to the grand jury report, we've identified new areas for improvement, and we're implementing those, and we feel like that we are going to be stronger and better and doing a better job at this. We've also shared all this information with all the districts in Santa Cruz County and encouraging them to utilize these resources and implement some of the same systems in place. We're also reaching out to agencies such as the Family and Children's Services, which is CPS is how we usually think of them, to look at how we can improve our communication and feedback loops so that we're able to ensure that that we can work together to identify potential cases and provide as much support as possible to potential young people who are being impacted. So we wanted to share with you a poster that we've have available. Right now, this one has only been shared with staff, but we're going to be putting these up for our students as well. Pass this down. And so you'll see that it has a basic form to know the signs. It has resources and phone numbers to report a concern, including Child Protective Services, the District Attorney's Office for Human Trafficking, and the National Human Trafficking Hotline. It talks about the signs, and then there's a link for more additional information on our website. And so these are going to be, you're going to be seeing these in our classrooms going up this year. All right.
Does this apply to private schools, charter schools, homeschooling?
So the report, this is all County Office of Education schools, right? And so our, what we do in this kind of case, the grand jury report only looked at the County Office of Education schools. Their questions were only, but we recognize that this is not something that only exists in our schools, and that for that reason, we're sharing our systems with all schools. And we are sharing this with private schools as well.
Two comments. One, there's another nonprofit. I don't know if we want to link into it, but Pedal the Pacific is an all-women's college ride that goes from, I think, Washington to Southern California, which
Alaska.
Alaska.
I think Alaska to
and it raises funds to combat human trafficking, and they come through Santa Cruz every year. So Morning Rotary, as you well know, is involved with that. And then second, just given some of the communities that are particularly impacted by human trafficking. Do we do signage like this bilingually or even in many languages?
Yeah, well, so once this is right now for
template,
staff.
got
And
it.
so once we create the templates for our students, which will go up in our classrooms, those will be. So that is it. And of course, with your support, I hope you would consider approval of the resolution for recognizing Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and which is later on in your agenda. Thank you so much for your time.
Just one comment on that, is I think it's incredibly important that this information gets out, because I think it happens more often than we know. And I think it's such an important information to understand just as parents, and not just as the COE and staff and teachers, but that the greater community is aware of it. And you're right, when you hear the story of the survivors, it hits home differently. And it is gut wrenching, but it's also very eye-opening that we have to be observant, and having a tool like this just available so that we can pass on and have in the community, I think is incredibly important. So I think when the resolution comes up, I don't know if we're going to have a problem getting it passed. But thank you for that presentation. Are
Thank
there any
you.
other final questions, comments regarding this?
Just a comment. I appreciate the timing of this, given the Super Bowl coming here, and I know that there's concern of increase of this activity. In Santa Clara County had law enforcement, DA, and hotel organizations around for like a summit to prepare for it and to sort of spread this information and be on alert. And I don't know that if Santa Cruz County has, but I know we're a destination spot for Super Bowl visitors. So it's my hope that the county has done that too. And I don't know if you know if that's taken place or
I
not.
don't, but I can check.
No. No. Bruce, did you have a comment? I saw you. Okay, all right.
Just share the concern, both in terms of labor as well as.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to item 11.2, the interim financial certifications and COE review process with Dr. Sabah and Rebecca Olker.
Yeah, so this presentation came from as a request from the board. You first asked how districts were doing for first interim, and we shared some information about that. And the officially at this point, there is one school district that has been identified as qualified. Today, we are notifying them that we agree with their certification, and so we're certifying them as qualified. And so Becky and I are going to be sharing some information, kind of not hypothetically, but kind of abstractly what this means. What does a qualified designation mean? What happens? What process do we utilize to evaluate first interim reports? What are first interim reports, and so on. And so it's kind of an overview of our process. Just so that you're aware of the steps that we take and how we provide support to ensure that that districts remain solvent and that we do everything we can to ensure that they kind of continue in a positive direction. And so I'm gonna turn it over to Becky, but I'll be jumping in here and there. First, we're providing a little bit about what AB 1200 and what the state law requires of the county superintendent and the county office of education when it comes to certifications and interim reports.
Before you start, welcome.
Oh.
Welcome to the
Oh my
table.
gosh.
We are
Thank
so
you.
happy to have you here. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Before I turn it over to our interim deputy superintendent, I am so sorry. Sorry, Becky. I forgot that this was your first meeting. I have to do an introduction now, so I'm going to thank you for
Yes,
that.
please.
President Williams. So yes, we are so grateful to Becky Oker, who has stepped in as our interim deputy superintendent. Becky has been with the county office for
I think 13 years.
13 years, brings a wealth of knowledge in many aspects of the business services department and especially in the external part, which is the work with the school districts and which can be quite complicated, as you'll see in this report. And so we're very grateful to Becky. She already has joined us in cabinet and is going to do an outstanding job. And so thank you, Becky, and welcome to the board for your first meeting.
You all very much. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what our process is. We work with the districts. They're required to turn in 2 interim reports a year. So the interim report is a substantial bit of information from anybody who has ever worked in finance. A lot of times we call it like a monthly close. It's a little tiny look at what you're doing each month. This is a deep dive into what you are doing, and it's done twice a year. What your actuals are through October 31st, and then what your projected budget is through the end of the year. The second one is due in January. The report is through actuals through January 31st, and then it is your actuals through the end of the year. So you're always looking at where are you now, where are you going to be? And those have to be presented what they call 45 days after close, and the close are those 2 actual dates I mentioned. So for the October 31st, has to go to board by December 15th. For the January 31st, it has to go to board by March 15th. And then the COE has 30 days to review that information and to respond to the district. And so part of our review is we're going to look at something we call the criterion standards. It's kind of a dashboard. They put a lot of information in there. It's multi-years. They put in prior year data, they put in future year data, and it kind of assembles it into a dashboard for us to look at and say, how is the district doing? Are they doing well compared to the state averages, and are they doing well compared to what they have done historically? And then they have to kind of explain where they are out of sequence of those trends. So we look at all of that information. We look at their attendance. We look at their local control funding formula calculations. We ask them to submit all of the information that comes in with assumptions, as well as what we call a multi-year projection. They have to submit not only the current year budget, but 2 subsequent years. So always looking for 2 years out.
And these are the same reports that we present to you for first interim and second interim. So they're just, so we submit them to the state, and after we get your approval, the districts submit them to us for review and certification.
And we go through the same process the state does with us. They look at all of the reports, they ask our assumptions, ask clarifying questions. So that's kind of what we do as the external portion of the district, of the county office. We review all of this, and we have a whole list of questions that we go through and ask, what is their ADA, and is it on trend with historical? What are they projecting for the future? And do they have a rationalization for it? Are they using somebody to project ADA into the future or project their enrollment? So we ask all of these questions as we are doing our review, and we take all of this into consideration. And what we are doing is we're trying to determine the status of, is a district positive, qualified, or negative? Positive certification is that they will meet their obligations, their fiscal obligations for current year plus 2 out years. Their qualified certification is that they may meet their obligations for current plus 2 out years, and a negative certification is they will not meet their obligations for current plus 1. So in the negative, we're only looking at the 1 out year. And that a lot of that is based around cash. So, you always hear the expression cash is king, and that is especially true in schools. You can have a fund balance that says we are sitting with $10 million, but if nobody has actually paid you that $10 million, you can't pay payroll, you can't operate. So it is cash is what is really driving some of these indications of fiscal distress. So the timeline, as I mentioned, is that, after they adopt the budget in June, July 1st, we open the year. We look through October 31st is when they are looking at actuals through that period. So it's the first quarter of the year. How have we done so far? Then that goes to board December 15th, and Of course, it's looking at projections through the end of the year. And then we have to, the COE looks at it, we do our own review, and do we concur with everything that the district has presented to us? And then we write a letter back to the district with our review information. So this is just, again, kind of the step process that we go through. As soon as the information comes into us, we review all of the forms and we review their email to, did they include all of the forms? Have they completed it? Did they fill out the information in their local control funding formula in all 3 years? And did they fill it out accurately? So we start to go through that, then we go through and look at their entire SACS report that we present to you. The same type of report. We look at the criterion standards, we look at their Form A, and as we're doing this, we're asking ourselves all of the questions about this district's fiscal stability. And then after we've validated that and we start to look at their multi-year projections, we also look at their ending fund balances and their reserves. So as you know, the state requires a minimum reserve amount for all districts, not only the current year, but plus the 2 out years. So for districts that are in the size that we are, that are all in the county, if you are below 388, it's a 5% minimum or $88,000. And that $88,000 will adjust every year. If you are above that, but below, I believe it's 100,000 or something, I can't remember the exact numbers, it's a 3% minimum reserve. And then when you get to the size of Los Angeles Unified, it's a 1%. But one thing to kind of keep in mind is that reserve amount is about 2 weeks of payroll. It is not a significant amount of money that we're asking them to set aside, or the state is requiring them to set aside. But we look at all of that, and that is the minimum that they have to have. Once we do all of that, the next step is the collaborative problem solving. Actually, top one, number 4. This is what we kind of pride ourselves on in the external department and at the county office. We have a very good relationship with our districts, and we work really hard to work with them on all of their questions and how can we help them be fiscally solvent. So it just is a lot of back and forth. We ask a lot of clarifying questions, and they work with us to provide the information. They have already certified, they self-certify as a positive, qualified, or negative, and we will either agree or change it, depending on the information that we've reviewed. And then, of course, like I said, we do a report and follow up with the district. We send the report out to their board.
So in most cases, if I could add, in most cases, they say that they certify and it goes to their board and they say it's positive and that we agree with them. In some cases, like in this case with Pajaro Valley Unified School District, they say that they're qualified and we agree with them. In the case, for example, of Live Oak a couple of years ago, they said that they were qualified and we flipped them to negative. When that occurs, a series of things happen because it basically means that we have concerns about their process. This process that Becky is describing, that we disagree on the fiscal health of the district, and that triggers a lot of things that occur. In this case, though, or PVUSD, they've certified as qualified, and we are agreeing with them.
This is just a little bit more information as what we mentioned, the positive, qualified, and negative. And then kind of what we also look at as we're going through this. So positive, again, we are assured of their reserves that they have it. And we continue to do risk monitoring just through the regular budget review. So it's just the ongoing. When they're qualified, it does trigger a few more steps involved and that they could be required. A lot of it is up to the discretion of the county superintendent of what we're going to require of them. They could be required, for example, to submit what we call a third interim. And so that's an additional report after the second interim period, but before they do their estimated actuals. Is the district's budget still in the same status that it has been, just to make sure that they're still financially sound? And then of course the negative comes with even more restrictions. And this is at some points where we get the state involved, and then there's another organization called FCMAT, the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team. And they will come in and do something that they call a fiscal health risk analysis, where they go through and ask, I believe it's something like 144 questions. And they require backup documentation for all of it, and just to determine, a lot of it's about internal controls, processes, procedures. Are you requiring purchase orders before you go out to do any purchasing, which is basically permission to buy something, as opposed to everybody just buys what they want and turns in receipts. And then you don't have a good control over budget because you don't know what's being spent. That's the type of thing that they ask, and they routinely look at all of that information. So again, this is just the outcomes like we had talked about. If the COE is going to confirm with the district of their self-certification, then it is filed with the state and everybody is just kind of going on status quo is what we expected. If we are changing it, then we have, like I said, until January 15th. I know it says 75 days, but that's the 75 days from October 31st. We go to January 15th to tell them that we are flipping them. And then they have 5 days to issue an appeal, and they're issuing the appeal to the state superintendent. Then the state superintendent has 10 days to respond. So this is just a little bit of the ed code and such that that allows us to look at all of the information and then requires us to request fiscal stabilization plans. So again, under a qualified budget, one of the things that we can ask for is something called a fiscal stabilization plan. What are you going to do in order to reduce the deficit? And some of it could be just deficit that you have a one-time unknown unexpected expense. But what typically happens when you get into that level is something we call a structural deficit. You have built-in expenditures that are greater than the revenue that you're getting in. It just is something that continues, whether it's offering raises or offering. We have a gentleman that used to work in school services many years ago, and he used to always say, never offer one-time money to things that eat. So you don't want to use one-time dollars on people because the dollars go away, but the people don't.
If I could add, so an important aspect of this is that the first interim report process is looking into the past. So it's a report about, actuals up to October 31st. And then the second interim goes up to January 31st. So, but a fiscal stabilization plan says, okay, you're based on your projections and whatnot, your current state and your multi-year projection shows that you're going to run out of money. The fiscal stabilization plan gives the district an opportunity to explain how they're going to change the trajectory that they're on for improvement. And so that is how they say, well, okay, we know that it looks like we're going to run out of money, but we're going to be making these changes, these cuts, these reductions, or bring in more revenue this way. And this is how we're going to get back on track, and we're going to be in a positive space. So we're going to be asking for PVUSD to provide us a fiscal stabilization plan as part of the qualified process, which is pretty much a very standard process for them to be able to not only share what's currently happening, what has happened in the past, but also what their plans are for the future.
And just to follow up on that, a lot of times what we do with a lot of our districts, especially even the smaller ones that don't have a lot of flexibility when it comes to making decisions with reduced spending, is to already come up with a plan like this. If you were to lose some funding, what is the first thing you're going to cut? And we also do the reciprocal. If you were to get some one-time dollars, what is the first thing to add on? Because of course, everyone's going to come with their hand out and you want to be able to make some sound decisions while you have the capacity to do it. So that's partly what the fiscal stabilization plan allows. So then this is again going on what more our role is with regards to assisting districts if they are in fiscal distress. So it's, and without, and also not being in fiscal distress, just throughout the course of the year. So we do a lot of support with SACs. We do a lot of trainings. I hold something that is called a financial information group meeting. We affectionately call FIG. And we do these meetings every month that just shares with the districts all of the changes in statute and anything that is coming out from the state, as well as any support that they might need to complete their reports. We do a lot of early monitoring when we're looking at some of this information. That's partly of our asking the questions. Your ADA has dropped 5% every single year, but you're actually projecting to increase next year. Can you help us understand why? That's the type of thing that we're looking at when we're looking at some of the early warning and monitoring. And then, of course, the corrective action is the fiscal stabilization plans. Any budget revisions is, so one of the other things that's required by statute is if they settle negotiations, for example, they have a certain, like 6 weeks to get those budget revisions into their budget to say, yes, we can afford it. Here is the proof that we've reported it and what the impact is to our bottom line. So that is actually the end of the slide. Anybody have any questions?
I have some comments, actually. it's not particularly about our personal interim report, but it's about a situation that I've heard of for one of the school districts in our county who is not currently making the like status that is needed. I have heard a bit about their plans to, and I'm not trying to say calling anyone out, I mean, a little bit, but I don't have any power in that sort of way. But it's their plan is to take, I think 50% of them is taking from special education and mental health. And I would just like to say that special education, people in special education and students that are receiving mental health services are already like more at-risk students for not being able to succeed as much in education. And especially for special ed students, there are many individual needs for each student. Like there's IEPs, and like, for example, some things are one-to-ones. Like some students need one-on-one care. And when taking away staffing based on a sort of nationwide standard of what people normally have, or I don't know if it's nationwide or statewide, that does not keep in mind like what students need for that particular situation. Like think of the national poverty level. Like I think it's like 30 something thousand is like poverty level, but that's nowhere near what would be needed to support someone here today. And so it's kind of like that idea in mind is what I'm sort of saying, is that it's just really taking from those who are the most vulnerable.
If I could kind of connect the concern that student trustee Moran has shared with the presentation. So the AB 1200 really gives the county superintendent, the county office of education, a lot of leverage when it comes to ensuring that school districts stay in a positive fiscal position. When we start seeing signs of that happening, it gives us authority to be able to intervene in different ways, to be able to also work with the state to, again, ensure that the schools get back on a positive footing. We have less authority when it comes to the decisions that school districts boards will make in how they come about with those solutions, right? The AB 1200 really is about to create kind of guardrails for fiscal solvency. However, we do have some authority in that area. So, we do provide support to help schools make decisions when it comes to the kinds of approaches that in terms of how they're looking to maintain their solvency. And so it's not quite related to the AB 1200 kind of roles that we have, but we will be sure to support, PVUSD and other school districts that are looking at making tough decisions when it comes to ensuring that we're working towards the best, the kind of the well-being of students and ensuring that the district has all the support they need to make tough decisions to remain in a positive standing.
Go to trustee Larson, then we'll go back to trustee Moran.
Okay, thank you. First, thank you for bringing this to us. It's very, I thought I understood it. This provided much more clarity, so thank you for that. Two questions. One, I think I know the answer from, but in the staff report, you had the chart of how this has played out since 23, 24. In the two prior examples we have in Live Oak, their first interim was negative and then the following year qualified. But by the second interim, they got to positive, which is, I'm assuming, what we hope happens every time. That even this year, when a district comes in and it's qualified, we hope that by the second interim, they've recovered with the additional inducements, I guess, and support to get there. So that's obviously the plan or the goal, I assume.
Correct.
And then,
And that's exactly what we are trying to get them all back to. So they just need to work with our board in order to come up with an approved plan that will allow them to get there. So that's when they can go back and regain the positive.
And then second, just given the changes happening statewide, is there any statewide data yet that there's a lot more qualified or negative first interim findings across the state than in the last year or two?
For this period, I don't have the 25-26 first interim data yet, but for the prior, yes, we do have a few more that are falling into the qualified and negative status. And for the first time in 20 years, I believe, we have a district that went into receivership.
So it appears like it might be escalating, but we don't have this year's data yet. Perfect, thank you.
I'll be able to share the, so FICMAT does, I'll be going to I'm on the FICMAT board and I'll be, they provide us an update. So I'll be able to get that in by the end of January. It is, I would say that there have been some increases. At the same time, they're relatively small number of districts out of the 1,100 or so school districts that end up being even qualified, maybe in the number 20 across the state. So there are increases, but at the same time, it's not like it's a very small fraction of most.
What I would just like to say back about that is I would very much recommend a more in-depth review of what the particular students need, because the whole point of our education system is we really want to help kids grow and learn, and it would not only be unjust but unethical to make sure to like not have everyone get a good education who like deserves a good education. Everyone deserves a good education, and that's what the public school system needs to provide. And so I suggest doing an in-depth review of students' needs, especially because a lot of people need specific IEP needs. So knowing the students' needs and also speaking with students about like what they think they need to keep or what they think needs to go, because really the whole reason of the school system is to support our students and help them with their education. And I understand money's like a massive part of it, because money is a massive part of everything, but really everything is for the students. So I think that's important to keep in mind and have them be able to like share their voices.
Thank you, Trustee Moore. Don't disagree. I have a couple of just more of process, and hopefully it's not too much in the weeds, but you were talking about the process of they're qualified, and then one of the things that could be done or is going to be done is the FSP. During that first we've qualified them, and they might provide a plan, or we be required to provide an additional report at some point. At any one of those points, can their status be changed? Let's say, for instance, they come back with, a new update and it's still the same or worse, could it be changed? Or if you deem maybe the FSP not adequate to bring them out, could it be changed? Whether for the better or the worse, whether it be, solvent or negative.
So the status of a district can't be changed outside of the review period, the interim reporting period. So it would have to wait until the following reporting period. There is something that is called a lack of going concern. So if a district is making financial decisions that are not in its best interest, for example, they are already qualified and they want to do a substantial raise for their employees, that's not something that they can, afford. We would declare a lack of going concern, which basically also comes with something called a stay and rescind. And it would allow the county office to go in and overturn some of those decisions to help stabilize the district until better decisions can be made.
That's post-qualification, or can it be
That can be
retro?
declared at any time throughout the year.
Got it.
So I had heard of a county office that approved a budget and then turned around and declared their district lack of going concern the next day because they had heard of subsequent events that qualified.
Thank you. Thank you. That answers my question. Are there any other questions, comments?
I have a question based on your question and Trustee Moore's. I probably don't have the right language, but that stay in, what was the, yes, stay and rescind. Can the COE, probably the superintendent or the business office, trigger that option for inequity? So say the cuts are inequitably hitting a certain demographic or area. Is that a possible something, or is that just too much in their business?
Not really. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's important that in the same way that you have to be careful in your role as a county board when a interdistrict transfer comes to you, not to try to run the district's decision when it comes to a certain process. You really are just reviewing the process. A lot of the authority that is given to the superintendent and the county office of education is based on that fiscal protecting, is ensuring that school districts from going into insolvency. That's really where that, so how you're doing it is, saying we don't like how you're doing it. We have some authority to really look at that and say, we want to partner with you on that. But really, most of the kind of the strongest authority we have over school districts is really to stop them from making decisions that will lead them to become insolvent. And so it would be a misapplication of AB 1200 to say, well, we find a lack of going concern not for fiscal reasons, but for the approach you're using to, something, let's say, if a school district were in their hiring practices, if they don't have controls in place, systems in place to ensure that how they're hiring folks, that could be a lack of going concern. It's not necessarily directly fiscally related, except it is if you don't have control over who your position controls are not in place, and you're hiring, that could lead to insolvency, right? So there is a direct correlation that links us to that. But if it's more of an equity issue, there's other aspects of the education code that allow us to be able to intervene, but it's not with the same authority. And we have to be very cautious not to try to override the local authority of school districts unless absolutely necessary. Like to be able to intervene because to stay and rescind a decision by a school district, that's a pretty big intervention, and would only be done if it's absolutely necessary, because we feel like the decisions that are being made are so the risk is so high, and the negative consequences would lead to damaging the fiscal health of the district.
Thank you for the presentation. That was very enlightening and very helpful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. There's no more questions or comments. We're going to move on.
Great job on your first presentation, Becky.
All right, now we can move on. Item 11.3, disposal of personal property worth less than $25,000. Again, presenters Rebecca Ulker and Michelle Kennedy.
I wanted to make sure I talked as much as I could tonight. So this is a disposal of a couple of portables that we had over on Swift Street. And they were some buildings that we had used for special education. We are, as we have presented to you in the past, building the high school at Soquel High for our special education department. So part of the agreement is that we are agreeing to let go of these portables, which are old, not in good repair, and would cost more to do anything with. For example, like we said, it's going to cost about $20,000 to $30,000 just to demolish them and get the whole thing moved out. So part of the agreement is that we gave these to Santa Cruz City Schools for $1. That allows them to sign the lease to us at Soquel High for 42 years. That allows us to build the units there. So this is just us letting you know that we are entering into this agreement so that we can move forward with the lease of the portables at Santa Cruz.
And their age and their as Becky is sharing is these would not meet current standards for us to be used as a classroom, and so they couldn't be used or transferred over for that location, and that's why they're going to be.
But they have a use for them, school, city schools.
No, they're demolishing
They're
them.
going to demolish.
I see.
So they're gonna,
They want the space.
They want the space, correct.
that is the location where they're going to be building the workforce housing. And so we understand is that location is going to be used for staging the equipment for their.
Moving on to new business, because we haven't heard from her enough today. We just love hearing from you. You're doing a fabulous job. Thank you so much. We're moving on to item 12.1. Rebecca Olker.
Okay, so this is a resolution that allows any of the districts in our county to do any short-term borrowing. As you know, a lot of our districts are reliant on property taxes, and property taxes come in December and April, which kind of sometimes affects cash flow for the district, makes them a little short. Part of what Ed Code says is, yes, they have this ability to borrow from what we call a county schools pool, meaning the county treasury has pooled all of its money together, allows them to borrow from each other if they need to, or other funds, until the last Monday in April. After that last Monday in April, until June 30th, they are no longer allowed to do that, and they have to, the only other solution is to borrow from the county office of Ed, should we allow it. So we have typically in the past set about $5 million aside, and we kind of allow it on a first come, first served basis should anyone need to come borrow. And in my 13 years here, we've had this happen once. So it's not a good occurrence. We just do it. I always call it, kind of a security blanket. We just like to have it in place should anyone need to participate. Questions? All right, we have a second?
Student trustee Guillen Martinez.
Aye.
Student trustee Moore.
Aye.
Trustee Kyle.
Aye.
Vice President Larson.
Aye.
Trustee Roth.
Yes.
Trustee Sanchez.
Yes.
Trustee Van Allen.
Aye.
President Williams.
Yes. Item 12.2, Resolution 2602, proclaiming January 2026 as Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Trustee Van Allen.
Thank you. This resolution speaks to the issue that Dr. Sabah was addressing earlier. And we do have one little thing that I want to look at the text and make sure we got right, which was there was a wording in there. It was the use of the words is and as. I think Berenice got it correct in the final draft. Yeah. So in the second paragraph, it's where it's basically giving the definition. Human trafficking. Yeah. Okay. It's correct. It's as defined by the Trafficking Victims Protection Act is a blah, blah, blah. So the resolution is correct as submitted. And then we added some stuff related to the World Rising organization, since we're now partnering with them. Nick did the language and looks good to me. So I would recommend approval.
Student trustee Guillen Martinez.
Aye.
Student trustee Moore.
Aye.
Trustee Kyle.
Aye.
Vice President Larson.
Aye.
Trustee Roth.
Yes.
Trustee Sanchez.
Yes.
Trustee Van Allen.
Aye.
President Williams.
Yes. Right. Moving on to item 12.3. Resolution 2603, recognizing February as Black History Month. Trustee Van Allen.
Thank you. This resolution we've had before. We do have a couple adjustments or changes to it for this year. We especially wanted to mention the previous superintendent, Michael Watkins. And then I suggested in addition to the mention of Black grad. And the reason for that is that you might recall that every year when that happens, somebody gets all in a huff that why are they getting some special consideration, some special graduation ceremony? Why aren't some other group getting it? Well, the point is this is not a replacement for the actual high school graduations. Those happen normally. Every student is treated the same within those. And this is an additional celebration because the advancement of Black people in this community is an important criteria or priority. So anyway, I thought this phrase, which again, Nick wordsmithed into a, I think, effective phrase, just tries to address that. Not that it solves the whole problem of prejudice, but why not at least, frame it in a way that mitigates that a little bit. So that was my thought about that. Again, of course, I recommend passage.
Second?
Whatever.
Do the motion.
Second, trustee Roth?
Student trustee Guillen Martinez. Student trustee Moore. Trustee Kyle.
Aye.
Vice President Larson.
Aye.
Trustee Roth.
Yes.
Trustee Sanchez.
Yes.
Trustee Van Allen.
Aye.
President Williams.
Item 12.4, approval of the 2026-27 budget calendar. Becca Olker.
We have to establish a calendar at the beginning of every budget year that just goes through and explains what we're going to be accomplishing at each period throughout the year. And so this is just the updated calendar for this year. So we're already starting to work on our budget. We're going to be attending the governor's workshop next week is in Tuesday. The three of us, Michelle and Melissa and I will all be in Sacramento listening to the January governor's budget. And then from there, we go on to just accomplish all of the other tasks throughout it, including meeting with the budget committee. And
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the calendar? All right. Yes, yes.
As a member of the budget committee, when we do our meeting after the May revise comes out, if that could be as early as possible, I know you need to do work after the May revise comes out, but not just a day or two before the board meeting, but preferably a little bit earlier.
You know, again, it's a lot of it's determined by the timing of things. but we'll
Understood.
certainly do what
Just
we
if
can.
possible.
Yes.
It's not asking for a date, just you say May or June, so the early side of that. Thanks.
It's a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Passes. Thank you. All right. Next, we have the superintendent's reports.
Yes, thank you so much, President Williams and the members of the board. You all have seen the news for the governor's proposed budget, which looks very promising for education. Just a reminder that this is just a proposal. There will be a May revise and then, of course, a process for approval of the budget before July 1st. However, what the governor has proposed is a larger investment in education. And so including differentiated assistance funding, including increased funding for districts, especially those with high unduplicated student counts. And so we're hopeful that this is going to be a positive budget. We've invited you to several trainings and information, I believe, including the one by Capital Advisors, which is our favorite one. And so we'd encourage you to participate in that as they kind of dissect the proposal. There are some concerns about the methodology that the state is using to defer funding from future years or from kind of creating future debt with this funding. And so it would be good to participate and to learn more about this proposal. But generally speaking, I think the reaction from the TK-12 community is very hopeful. Wanted to share, of course, I want to thank you for those of you who have been able to participate in the Career Advancement Charter and as well as alternative education graduations. We've had a couple already and more for tomorrow. These are the mid-year graduations, which have been wonderful. Very excited to have our students demonstrate their success and in many cases graduating early. And many of them who have completed a lot of coursework at Cabrillo College and moving forward with their educational success. We're excited to share that Stephanie Sumarna, who works in our technology and innovation department, has been identified as a Titan of Tech, which is a great title. And so we're very, very excited for Stephanie, really recognizing her efforts to, in educational technology specifically. She is a leader that also works not only with school districts, providing direct support to teachers and administrators, but also leads our YETI youth. Andres, you're gonna have to help me out. Youth empowerment through technology innovation. Thank you so much. Looks like Nick was about to jump on there to save me as well. So I got good backup over here. Thank you. So Stephanie is the advisor to that group, and she's just she's always available to support in a variety of ways. And so we're really very, very proud and not surprised, because this is a very well-deserved honor. If you are interested in joining us to go to the award ceremony, please let Veronice know, and so we can get you tickets. You've received a reminder from Veronice on the COE board self-evaluation survey, and which is due in a couple of days, and so we encourage you to get that done. I know that almost everybody has completed at this point, right? No. More work needs to be done. We're not gonna put anybody's name on the board, don't worry, but we encourage you to complete the survey and self-evaluation to help us. I did want to provide some federal updates. As you know, we track this carefully. Yesterday, we received a notification that from the SAMHSA grants, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, that they are cutting all funding to California. But then today we found out that has been rescinded, and we received a subsequent letter saying that the funding had been reinstated. This would have represented about $1.5 million in mental health funds to our school districts and to our programs. And so we're relieved that their cuts have been rescinded. It's still very disconcerting because it puts into question their commitments to honor the funding that that we've applied for and been awarded. We also learned, of course, that the Health and Human Services has the intention to cut childcare subsidies to 5 states that are identified as blue states, including California. And that effort is on hold by the courts because the states have sued the federal government to stop this effort because it does seem politically motivated. And it is currently being fought in the courts and is on hold at this time. We did communicate to the early childhood community our understanding of the current situation, which basically is that there's a lot of uncertainty, but to continue providing services, as there has not been a direct effect to our programs here locally at this time, and so we want to make sure to minimize the disruptions to these services. Disruptions such as the cuts to Head Start, when Encompass relinquished the grant. We have been, even though I didn't put it on here, that we are working with the Community Development Incorporated, which is a nonprofit organization that works under the authority of the Head Start program, the National Head Start program. They are working diligently to try to reestablish those programs here locally, and then transition those programs to a competitive grant that would be applied. I did want to share with you that we are working with the Board of Supervisors to consider an ordinance similar to one that was approved by Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, that the ordinance would not allow ICE to utilize school resources for any of their operations, such as staging or, and basically, in some way, symbolically and assertively share that we do not want them to have any contact in our schools whatsoever. This would involve an ordinance by the Board of Supervisors, and we may come back to you with a request for a resolution in support of this ordinance. We would want to notify and communicate that our schools are, and all our resources are not to be used in any way to support the efforts of immigration enforcement anywhere near our schools. More information on that one. Some exciting upcoming events. So of course, the graduations, which are occurring today, actually yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We'd love it for you to join us at the Pajaro Valley Prevention Student Assistance Soup for a Cause community event, which is occurring January 22nd. And we have a table that is ready to be filled with your with you to enjoy some delicious soup. I'll be serving the soup with Dr. Heather Contreras from PVUSD, and also the new president of Cabrillo College is going to be there serving soup with Blanca Baltasar, who's the vice president there, and so they'll be also serving soup there. So you'll get a chance to get some delicious soup from some and. And our student trustee, Vicente Guillen, is going to also be serving soup as well. So that's wonderful. So the governor's January budget workshop will be here on January 29th. This is by Capital Advisors. And so we would encourage you to come and join us for that. A lot of amazing student and community events, including Poetry Out Loud, the Latino Role Models Conference, which we work on in collaboration with Senderos. The mock trial finals and awards is on February 24th. TK Pre-K Community Forum on February 26th. Our Civic Summit, which we are doing with the county clerk, will be on February 27th. The STEAM Expo, March 28th, and the World Languages Showcase on April 14th. So many of these are run out of our Ed Services division, and so very exciting, and also our Student Leadership Department. And so this becomes, February especially, becomes the peak of a lot of these activities, and kind of, I'm not seeing the spelling bee on here. I think we missed that one this time. So that one's coming up soon. It's on us.
Is on January 24th, so it is right after your special board workshop.
Yes.
And at
after that.
UCSC, so very
That's right.
conveniently located.
There you go. So we could
There you
leave here and go over to the spelling bee awards ceremony. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bernice. Yeah.
Particulars on that?
Yes, we'll send additional information and you know, these are in some ways they're culminating events which are very exciting, but there's a great deal of work by the students and by the staff and parents and everybody involved in doing that. So it would be really wonderful for you to continue to be present at some of these events, and we'll definitely be you know, thank you for being there, to joining us, and so that you can see the great work and really students shining in so many different ways. Any questions for me?
On the last item, I do know periodically I've seen emails go out to all of COE, which includes us, asking for volunteers at events, like volunteering at the mock trial, not just going to the finals, which I think competed with the board meeting last year, but doesn't this year. Volunteering an earlier night, that will be an opportunity again.
Absolutely, we would love and absolutely can use your help and at a lot of these events. Yes, thank you. Do I know which soup? No, I hope it's a good one. Yeah. There's some amazing soups.
You don't want the one that no one wants, because then they just walk right past you.
I know.
It's like, hi, no, thank you.
You get no traffic. I know. Word spreads quick, doesn't it? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sabah. Okay, let's see here. We've got trustee reports, and I'll go ahead and start. We'll just go right down the line. Mine's real short. Attended the agenda committee meeting, attended with a couple of our trustees, Leanne's retirement celebration, which was amazing. She was glowing. We're so happy for her. And attended today the Alt Ed graduation at Cabrillo, and we'll be attending two of the ones tomorrow. And that's my
I'll jump in, and like the student trustees, I took most of December off after our last board meeting. Joined my first ever agenda committee meeting on the road, driving home from San Diego safely. Just loved, got to join two of the other board members for a tour of Centro Avance last week in Watsonville on Friday. What an incredible facility that you've pulled together, and student focused and oriented in just so many ways. So that was exciting. Leanne's farewell, the additional comment I'll add to the president's was just seeing all the other school superintendents in attendance to honor and respect, plus the incredible work of the staff team that worked with Leanne directly. It was an amazing event. It was just tremendous. I also attend the CSBA webinar on the 26 Governor's Budget Proposal Review. ACCBE did an input forum on the State Board of Education's Portrait of a Learner and Graduate Initiative. When I get the slides, I'll forward it on to staff. Joined Councilor Trustee Roth last night at the Charter Advancement Committee, CAC, whatever it is. CAC graduation last night, as well as the graduation today, and looking forward to the ones tomorrow.
I had a couple committees work, although the policy committee is still trying to convene a meeting, but we're present. Got to have the very enjoyable tour of 119, the Avance Charter. Didn't actually do much else. I've been totally immersed in some programming work. I don't have a paid client at the moment, so I just do my own projects. And I just hit a milestone, which isn't really that relevant, except that I just published my very first open source software yesterday. I've been developing software for 30 years, but I've never decided to take it to that step of actually publishing it to share with others. And it requires a lot of, I have to have 1 million tests to make sure it'll work for someone else when they install it and stuff like that. So it's a much bigger burden than just writing my own code, using it in my own machine. So I've been afraid about doing that for a long time because I'm not a college trained, computer science expert. I'm self-trained. Years of doing it, and I feel very inadequate most of the time, even though I do good work. I know people tell me I do good work, but anyway, so this was like a scary thing for me to do, and I pushed through it and did it. So
Perseverance, yes.
What's it
That is
called?
big.
How do you refer to the software?
Well,
code.
it's just a little utility that helps when you have a complicated program where there's various inputs and you want some of those inputs, some of those are required or the program won't work or it'll blow up if they're wrong. And others are optional, but you want to catch them if you can. And then you got to send those inputs to different places. Like they have a website where there are users who have to sign in to use the website for some reason. There's actually authentication, which is one process, storing their user data, which is a different thing. And there is their session when they log in that has to be tracked and managed so that they don't have to log in every time they click a button or something. So those are 3 very different things, but the input might all come from one web form where they fill it in with that different information, their password and their name and stuff like that. And so this utility that I designed, I'm surprised nobody else had made one. It grabs the information, makes sure what's required is there, makes sure what shouldn't come in is rejected, picks up the optional ones, and then funnels them to the purpose that they're designed for. It's really fast. That's the main thing. That's like just one step in a long process as fast as possible. But if you only have the fields you want, the data you want, then you're going to do less validating of the data. So anyway.
Thank you.
I also took most of winter break off, but I was the 3rd board member on the tour of Centro Avance, and that was an amazing facility, and we had a lovely tour guide. I went to today's graduation for alternative education program. It was my first graduation. It was very inspiring, highly recommend. And I just wanted to add or remind the group that the second screening of The Mask You Live In is is January 28th at 41st Avenue Cinema. So that's the one I'm going to go to because that's right near my house. So.
Just past the mall.
It is Cinelux Capitola, right exactly where you described on 41st. Right by the New Leaf.
I too was at home, but I did attend Leanne's retirement. Went to graduation last night, this afternoon, and I'm confused on the times and dates for tomorrow, but I will check with you. And I was on call for jury duty. My husband goes, "You're old enough to say you don't want to do it." Is that what you want as a juror? So anyway, I did my phone in.
Just one event this past month, and that was the Leanne's retirement party. And now I have retirement fever. Can't wait for the day to arrive. Looking forward to it. That's all. That's my report.
Oh, wishful thinking. Didn't you just get married? She
Not
might have-
retiring for a
She
while.
might have something to say about that. Just saying. All right. We're going to go into item 15, the any ad hoc committee reports. Going once, going-
If one
please.
One request to go to the Community Outreach and Legislation Committee. It's too late for this year, but for next year. The United Nations has adopted January 27th as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And the California State Department of Education also recognizes it on their webpage. So I'd like the committee to consider that for next year in light of the San Jose Mercury News on Sunday had a front page, top of fold story on acts of discrimination and Holocaust denialism, including in Santa Cruz County. So it's the UN adopted date. Oh, it's the liberation of Auschwitz.
What was the date? August?
January 27th.
Oh, January 27th. Okay. I agree 100% with you. And I was like, why can't we do it now? But
We
it's
don't meet
something we
again.
gotta
We don't meet again till next month.
plan. Okay. Yeah, I 100% agree with you.
All right, item 16, scheduling of meetings or upcoming meetings. Next one is January 24th, which is our special meeting here at 9 a.m. on January 24th, followed by our next board meeting, general board meeting on February 19th, and so forth. Are there any final comments? Thank you all who stayed around and joined us for our board meeting. And we wish everybody a very good night, and meeting is adjourned.